Good evening, denizens of the Tubernets. 'Tis I, Jaimas. And this right here is a little bit that has been, frankly, a long time coming. Today we will be going through, or at least starting, I believe my friend Cobra refers to them as fair game, of the original Metal Gear for NES. Now, this game has a very long and involved development history and is widely considered the redheaded stepchild of the Metal Gear series, Snake's Revenge aside. And, by and large, Hideo Kojima has largely, multiple times stated that he never liked the NES release, blah 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 blah. I think it doesn't get the credit it deserves, and frankly, this is kind of a review that's been a long time coming. Because to be perfectly honest, Metal Gear Solid wouldn't have had a snowball's chance in hell if it hadn't been for the NES release of Metal Gear and subsequently Snake's Revenge. So, in spite of the fact that the latter was kind of meh, the first one, of course, is one of my favorite games of all time, and I intend to discuss it in elaborate detail throughout this Let's Play. So, without further ado, let's put on our rabbite hats, make sure our rose-tinted glasses are on good and tight, because we are going directly into some retro gaming goodness. Alright. So, things open up, and we are being airdropped along with... We're not being airdropped by the government by this one, we're actually being airdropped by the guerrillas, and it is a major difference between the two Metal Gear versions. I'll get to that in a bit. For now, let's receive our first transceiver call of the game, where Big Boss, our commanding officer, gives us the mission. This is, of course, the first case of just how bad the English was. We're bordering on SNK-Glish right here. This is, and the reason for this is actually that the NES version of Metal Gear is not in fact based off the MSX release, but is in fact coded from the little-known European MSX release, which was badly translated and not actually handled by any of Konami's staff. What the NES version does have going for it is better graphics, smoother animation, frankly better music, as I'm sure you can hear right now. I'm getting sleepy and I feel asleep. Some of the classic bits of English. Right here we have some of the dogs in the game. Dogs are very similar to the guards, except they only stare straight down when they're idle, and they can't call for reinforcements. Unless there's guards around, they can't alert guards. Most enemies will die in 3 punches, and you don't start with any weapons or armor in this game. You start with bare bones equipment. You're expected to acquire all of your weapons and equipment on site. You are very vulnerable at the beginning of the game. I'm talking ridiculously vulnerable, and here we get a pair of binoculars. I will be using those, but not until much, much later on. Basically, the punch is like your only attack for like the good early part of the game, and it is frankly, yeah, this is very difficult. The enemies in the original release, had 2 stages of alert. There was there was a mode where they were actively looking for you, and there was the original evasion mode. In this particular game, there's only one. Now, this isn't actually due to a problem on the NES's part or anything power-wise. The main reason that this is the case is, again, it came from the European release of the MSX version, which only had 1 alert status. Again, the European one was a rushed port, which is kind of ironic because the NES version is really well done. You're looking right now at actually one of the biggest differences between the MSX and NES release right here, and here we have card 1, which is the first card key you get, probably the first piece of actually useful equipment that you're going to get for quite some time. It's used for opening doors. Now, I haven't actually gotten hit yet, but the enemies here can do a lot of damage to you very, very quickly, and battles are not to your advantage. At least not until you get actual weaponry. Yes, the truck has started to move. This is the primary way of getting between areas, is hopping back into the truck and riding in it. This is actually referenced in a lot of later games, including Metal Gear Solid 3. You can use the boxes to get around. You could also do that in the original Metal Gear Solid. Here we have rations. They are a life restoring item. interesting note, if you leave this guard alone long enough, he will leave his post and eventually be replaced by another guard. You can use the opportunity to try to run in, but due to a coding error, the enemies will very frequently be facing a certain way when you spawn onto the screen, and this can make it so that every time that you enter an area from a specific location, the enemy will instantly see you. This is not something that was in any of the MSX releases, and it's purely because the Nintendo has to flash the memory each time when it loads a new room, and that's why there's that extended black screen. We're finally inside the building. The buildings have really cool music. I like this area. I also like that this is like the first time again, the nice thing about the jungle area, which was not in the MSX release, is it gives you an idea of just how big Outer Heaven is, and it is huge. In fact, the NES version of Outer Heaven is actually 30 or 40% bigger than the MSX versions, mostly because it actually consists of multiple buildings. The MSX version was just 2 buildings, the NES version is 4. Again, there's still, we're still exploring first floor. We just got the gas mask. There we have the transceiver. Big Boss will periodically call us. Frequently, of all the characters, he has by far the most English. Be careful not to let the enemy detect you. I want you to stop for a second and ponder hearing that in David Hayter's voice. Be careful not to let enemy detect you. It's a miracle I haven't broken out laughing at that sentence. I just want to point that out. Alright, you're about to see a classic example of what I was referring to, of the enemies always facing a certain way being a problem. Bingo, this room. It always sounds an alarm if you go into this particular room this way. And the reason, and again, this is mostly due to the facing thing and the fact that it has to flash the memory. You're also going to see me use a ration for the first time here. Now you may be wondering why the hell don't you go through the right path. The right path is actually occupied by the instant death pit. And while there is a glitch that lets you take advantage of that, and that lets you temporarily close the pit, I really don't like doing it. This is another guard that has a shift switch. All the guards, by the way, are programmed with different levels of observation skills and different sight reads. Some of them are borderline blind. Other ones are psychic, and if you are anywhere in their area, they'll see you. Here we have the very first gun of the game, but unfortunately, as you can hear from the clicking, it has 0 ammo. And here is a moment where I derp out for a second, but before you'll see what happened with that in a second. I'm currently doing this derp from post-editing because it's the only way I can actually have the audio for me. There we go. We get another new weapon in this truck. By the way, the center truck has nothing but a bunch of guards in it who are immediately alerted to your position because they're hanging out back there smoking. So, yeah, they're smoking in that truck. At least they were in the MSX version. In this version, they're just sitting there, and they alert the second you enter. So with this, we've pretty much cleared the first floor. One big difference between this and the MSX release, this one's a lot more free roaming. There's a lot of different ways you can go through the mission. I went through the obvious way, which is the front door and going through with the card one door and not coming back around until much, much later. But it's entirely possible to completely ignore that one, take the truck that you saw on the right earlier, and come back in through a card 4 door that you can get after getting card 4. This particular door is unique in that it doesn't require any specific key to open. Almost all of them require a very specific card key to open. I've played through this game more times than God, so I know where all of them are. Ammunition, rations, and certain weapons that are in and of themselves ammo, like landmines and stuff, will respawn when you enter rooms. This is the first POW we rescue in the game. And here's the first hazard that we have, and there's no warning for this one either, which kind of pissed me off as a child. This right here is a room full of poison gas, and there's no warning for this one, except for the fact when Big Boss tells you that he forgot to tell you about it. That you will need a gas mask in gas-covered areas. He also alerts you that Schneider knows the location of the gas mask, but he never actually gives you Schneider's comlink number. Fortunately, again, years of experience, I already knew it, and it's also in the manual. Schneider, of course, is the leader of the resistance movement against Outer Heaven, and is, of course, one of the structural designers for the base, so he knows where everything is. the gas mask obviously renders you completely impervious to poison gas, and it is pretty much the first item of its type. There aren't a lot of poison gas areas in the game, but it's a vital piece of equipment, because you'll take continual damage while you're in that area otherwise. Here we have our first security camera. These things are a pain in the ass, and this one especially, because, again, due to the memory flashing, it will always appear in an area where it will spot you when you exit this room. This guy tells us, of course, that Foxhound sent Grey Fox into Outer Heaven several days ago, and then he got captured. But that, according to this prisoner, he's heard that he's still alive. And again, spotted by the frickin' camera, because that, again, the flash location. This is another death trap right here. I have no idea what this is supposed to be. It's obviously some kind of roller. Also, we get plastic explosives. Seems like kind of a stupid place to put them, but I assume that they had some guy who was trying to put them in the back, and he got flattened by this thing. That's at least the only logical conclusion I've come up with. If you have a better one, please let me know. And we're past that. Alright. Now you may notice I have the handgun, but right now I haven't really used it all that much. The reason why is when you first get the handgun, it's not a silenced weapon. It is loud, and if you fire it, you'll alert the enemy to it. I'll point this out later on when I shoot it, just to be a dick. But for the most part, if you fire any gun, it will immediately alert the guards. Usually you can run away and escape that way, but if you do use I use a ration here because there's a room that room on the left is loaded with rations. You can stock there. This is card 2. And card 2 will not open doors that card 1 requires, but it will open doors that specifically require card 2. I hate these fucking cameras. Later ones shoot lasers. I'm dead serious about this. I want to point out that there's kind of an interesting graphic glitch that's true of all Metal Gear games. If you look at Snake's feet, they're transparent. They did this to save on memory, and because giving him black feet looked kind of silly. I still think it's kind of interesting. This is the second hazard of the game, and this is one that has been referenced in just about every Metal Gear game ever. It is an electronic floor with a control panel, and you have to launch a remote control missile to blow up the panel so it shuts off the electric floor. This was in Metal Gear 2, this was in Metal Gear Solid, this was in Metal Gear Solid 2. The only one I don't think it was in was Metal Gear Solid 3. And I'm pretty sure that's just because 3 thought the joke was getting kind of old by then. Though that didn't stop Metal Gear Solid 3 from throwing in a hind day. Schneider, of course, gave us the movie. Alright, I still don't know what that thing's supposed to be. I want one. Like, seriously, if I ever create an Invincible Doom Fortress, I'm totally putting one of those in it. Like, in an abandoned room someplace, and my guards will be just like, Jimmy, what the fuck? Why is that there? Alright, there we go. I have located a missile. You know, as a child, I never really realized that the missile was, in fact, the remote control missile, because I never really put 2 and 2 together, and it doesn't really tell you, and I didn't have a copy of the manual for the original copy that I used to get from the video store, so, because I used to rent it. And then eventually I bought my own copy, and then I finally figured that out. But, yeah, the missile is, in fact, the remote control missile, and yes, when you fire it, you can't move, but you can guide the missile, and you'll be using this a lot throughout the game, both as an anti-boss weapon and to destroy those control panels. The mines, which I picked up earlier, you just saw me piss off the guard and immediately kill him in the same shot. The mines, which I picked up earlier, will explode if any enemy touches them. It's basically proximity mines. Their radius is really small, and they generally will only blow up 1 or 2 people at a time, and because all the explosions have the same radius, which is bam, like that. Plastic explosive you place and it explodes after a few seconds. It's honestly the worst weapon in the game, but it can prove useful in a couple of situations, including against the first boss if you have literally no other options. Okay. Going to rescue another soldier here. This is actually one of the game's first Easter eggs, and also introduces who my friend Dan refers to as the best character in Metal Gear history. And I refer to, of course, Steve. I've never heard of Steve? No, it's because Steve is an Easter egg. Diane is a character who we will contact only basically during boss fights and in a couple of areas much later on. Diane basically gives you equipment about the individual bosses and basically what weapon to use to kill what boss. She'll tell you obvious ways that they're vulnerable. Diane's not always in, however, and if Diane is out, you will get Steve. And Steve informs you that Diane is out shopping currently and has not come back yet. Farewell, Steve. You were always the best Metal Gear character. This is, like I said, fights to your, are not to your advantage. Can you imagine trying to deal with all of those guards with your fists? It ain't happening. Especially if they get close and start gunning the crap out of you, because they will quickly drain your life with their guns if they get close. And here we get the most iconic thing in all of Metal Gear. Yes, the cardboard box. It is in this game. And yes, it's just as stupid here as it was in the other games. For the most part, you use it, you ride around in it. If it's not moving, enemies will not suspect that you are anything other than a cardboard box. As you can see. It's the only way to hide in plain sight. However, if you're moving, enemies will immediately detect it to you. Now, over here we get two items which change the scope of the game considerably. The first one is right here. This is the silencer. This is an optional component, and it is immediately added to both your handgun and submachine gun. We don't have the SMG yet. It makes it so that your bullets are silenced, so they don't create noise. And this is the complete opposite end of the subtlety spectrum, a grenade launcher. The grenade launcher is not nearly as awesome as it sounds in this game. It simply throws explosive shells that go over terrain obstacles, allowing you to hit from behind walls. It actually can be pretty useful, especially during certain boss fights, but by and large, it is far from the best weapon in your arsenal. And again, the memory flash issue right here, causing an instant detection. Fuck you, camera. We're going to momentarily restock ammo before we head down to the lower floor. I want to know who's restocking those ammo boxes when I'm not in that room. I really do. Also, this is just me as a giant freaking gun fag speaking, but the grenade launcher in this game matches no known grenade launcher in real life. It is the sprite for it is in actuality based off of an MP5, like an MP5 SD, and you can tell by the long barrel, which is ironically the submachine gun that is used in Snake's Revenge. By the way, I wanted to take this chance to apologize for what just happened right there. I had a problem with Windows Movie Maker, and it actually cropped like a solid 2 seconds from the video right there. All you missed was I sounded an alarm, the guys came after me, I shot them both and killed them. Sorry about that. Windows Movie Maker is a piece of crap, and God, I wish there was a better program for doing this, but unfortunately there isn't one that my computer can actually run, so we're stuck with this piece of crap. That's it. We are now headed back down to the first floor. Technically, there's one other guy we can save on the second floor right now, but you can't really go that far on the second floor without the right equipment, and frankly, it's, this video is already running a bit long, so we're going to try to wrap it up ASAP. I hate these fucking cameras. And by the way, yes, that's going to be another one that the flash memory screws up on. But this one actually gives useful information, this guy. He basically tells you that Gray Fox is locked up in a hidden solitary cell room. You see, some of these are actually translated pretty well. And of course, immediate alarm sound. Fuck this, I'm right away. More of these guys. Again, you can see just how dangerous this can be if you're not ready for it, and even experienced players die occasionally, and we get a new weapon, the submachine gun. This thing fires really quickly, but it fires in like this fan-shaped pattern, so it'll like sweep back and forth. It really looks kind of silly, and there's no way for me to explain it other than to actually shoot it, but since I don't have any ammo right now, you'll have to wait till a future episode for me to do that. This guy also gives us some useful information, which is that the best way to get to the hidden cell room where Gray Fox is being hidden is to let the enemy capture you on purpose. This guy gives us an idea, so to speak. Sneak past. I'll hide in the back of this truck. Clearly they won't find me here. I just realized that Snake gets captured in every single Metal Gear game. Every single one. He's really bad at this. But yeah, here we've infiltrated the area where Gray Fox is, and now we need to find out where exactly his cell is. Again, more bad English from Big Boss. We wouldn't have it any other way. And yeah, you have to locate exactly where the hidden area that he is. Also, they took all of our weapons and all of our equipment again. So we punch the walls. We quickly find, wait a minute, and bam, we found the hidden entrance. And there he is. You know, for a character that's plot critical as Gray Fox is, all he really does in this is he spouts exposition for about, and mind you, it's all plot critical information, and this is all, you know, extremely useful and relevant and important, and he is the guy, of course, who would actually have this. He tells you the specifics of Metal Gear, that it's a walking tank with multiple nuclear capabilities, and is basically going to be used to allow them to launch nukes pretty much from damn near anywhere. Now, what's funny is, this is referenced later on in, like, other Metal Gear games, and Snake references that, you know, Gray Fox taught him the ropes and whatnot. No, this was... He's a character that's about an exposition. This is true in the MSX version, too. C'est la vie. This is Gray Fox. He tells us that the inventor of the Metal Gear, Dr. Petrovich, knows how to actually destroy the Metal Gear vehicle. And he's currently being held hostage somewhere in building number 1. Unfortunately, we're not in building number 1. We are currently in building number 3. And we have no equipment, no weapons, and we gotta find our way out.